anything today. It doesn't mean that Detroit is just going to have a field day against Houston. I wouldn't be surprised if they do because they're Detroit. Right now, they're playing like arguably the best team in football. But Houston's no slouch themselves. I know that Stroud hasn't been amazing this year. No Diggs, still no Nico Collins, but Tank Dell, the resurgence of Joe Mixon. Like, I think Houston's live in this game at home. Big game for them on Sunday Night Football. Again, Detroit's the better football team. I think that if they played this game 100 times, Detroit would win. Hmm, if it was a neutral field, 60 to 65 of them, but plenty of times they're not winning this game. So I think we see a good one tonight.
All right, Jordan, do we have audio issues here? I'm reading chat. So okay. All right.
Is it me? Me at all or no?
Oh. Okay. For those that
Please
'cause
no. Please no.
No, Jordan didn't put his voice live. So Jordan just said this is all his fault. So Tom, I know you're watching. This was not me. Normally it's me because it's technology. This was not. All right, so we're back now. So we were I was setting Matt up to use the transverse properties of because the Jets seem to be bad, but they did well last Thursday against Houston. Perhaps Jared Goff is going to be the first quarterback to throw for more than 250 yards against the Texans defense. That was all you guys really missed.
That was the word I was looking for, the transitive property. It seems likely and it's obvious, but that just doesn't usually work in sports. Again, doesn't mean Detroit's not going to play well, but just each game and each week is so different in the NFL. Hard to really view it like that. Like just as a 30,000 foot view, do you think Detroit just kind of rolls tonight?
So it's kind of an interesting thing to posit here. So now that Nico Collins is officially ruled out, he was kind of 50-50. He's back in the practice window from being on the injured reserve from what was it? He had I think he had a hamstring injury or whatever it was, soft tissue, whatever it was. So that wasn't really going to move the needle a lot, but it was going to give somebody else for the Detroit Lions to deal with here, someone else to pay attention to. Tank Dell tweaked his back Friday in practice. He's not carrying an injury designation right now. So, we think he's going to be all right. And then you've got Joe Mixon. But it all comes down to the offensive and defensive line. And Detroit has some of the best on either side of the ball in the game. And that, I think, is going to be the biggest challenge. But I would have never predicted Thursday night's game where they had, 10 touchdowns or whatever it was. No idea seeing that coming, right? So it's all the any given Sunday thing, right? To your point, any team can beat any other team. It doesn't matter. My thought is it's probably like 3 or 4 touchdowns Detroit and 1 or 2 Houston is kind of my guess. And now, does that happen early? Does that happen late? That's the hard part to tell, right? But I figure that Detroit should win. But we've seen teams melt down all over the place. But that was kind of my line. But they're on the road, right? All these other caveats you can throw out there. But I think Detroit has the better players on both sides of the line, and that's going to be the foundational difference maker.
Houston does have a good D line, but I have no arguments with anything you're saying.
Yeah. So let's cover some of the things here. We'll get into all the fun. I think all the games are finished now. I forget what. Let's see. Did you see CeeDee Lamb not get a touchdown because of the sun in his eyes in Jerry World?
Unfortunately, I did see that. Yes.
That was amusing. What else happened? Yeah, we talked about Aaron Rodgers being bad. Just craziness all around. Somehow Lad McConkey, I've tailed Eric Lindquist for the over on, I think he got it at 54 yards. So he just missed it. I got it at 56 and a half. McConkey only had 2 catches, but he ended up with the 37-yarder. He had 52 yards. I was like, oh, he had nothing through the first half. And I'm like, oh, he just has to catch one little short pass. And I got this. I'm gonna get the over. No, it didn't happen. So we'll get it next time. But turning our attention to the game at hand here. So we've got The Texans at home, they're 6-3. Detroit is 7-1. You have, depending on where you're looking, Detroit is about a 3.5 to a 4.5 point favorite. You get into some of those more, I don't want to say shady, but less popular books, and sometimes you can find some outlier numbers there. So we've got Jared Goff has a tough ask here going against Houston. Now, interesting things about Goff, he is actually leading the league right now with a 74.9%, so almost 75% completion rate. So that's pretty impressive. A lot of people forget, I think last year he was third or fourth in yards per game last year, and he wasn't that far away from the leaders, but passing down kind of everywhere here. And to your point, Texas does have a pretty good defensive line. DeMarco Ryan's, it's DeMarco Ryan, this is their head coach, right? Yeah. So pretty good. It's D'Amico. See, I'm doing it already. I questioned myself.
You were so close there.
I should have just plowed through.
And the funny thing about it is, the only reason I said it is because you were questioning yourself whether or not he was actually the head coach. I know you weren't even questioning the name, so I know. Yeah, I know. Sometimes you got to power through. Don't even give me the chance.
So anyway, the team has been pretty good here, but they haven't played great quarterbacks. So here's kind of the dichotomy, and then I'll hand this back to you to talk about the Detroit passing game. So rookie Drake May, the only quarterback to go for more than 220 yards. He had 243 yards. They played Anthony Richardson twice. They played Josh Allen. Josh Allen went 9 for 30, 130 yards and a touchdown. And then Caleb Williams was there. Who wasn't? Sam Darnold threw 4 touchdown passes. Jordan Love got 3 touchdown passes against them. May also had 3 touchdown passes in that game. And Aaron Rodgers, we just shit on for this week. He had 3 touchdowns. So they've given up 19 passing touchdowns. Everything else has been pretty solid. But how are you feeling about Goff? How are you feeling about Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, the rest of the crew? Jameson Williams is back.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Detroit has one of the most prolific offenses in football. Goff, when he's playing well, has a plethora of weapons at his disposal, certainly not the least of which being Amon-Ra St. Brown, going down from there, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, and then the 2 running backs. So Detroit is a hard nut to crack just because they've got a lot of guys, but they seem to score a lot in different games, and they all they share the cookies. So I like Goff here. He doesn't have much rushing upside, and I do like Houston in this game. So I'm probably going to be lower on the Detroit side than the field is.
So that's what I thought as well. And as I'm starting to build out my cash game lineup, Team Free Money, it's out there. DK Lobby, username EMac, just $1. Go ahead and take my cookie money from me. I'm ending up I'm ending up with 4 Houston Texans. So I've been trying to reevaluate what I'm looking to do here, because that was not where I really wanted to be. So you'd kind of mentioned, that like everybody is getting a little something here in the Detroit offense. I think they're leading the league with like a 32 points per game or something crazy like that. Now that's on the back of 2 kind of just gobsmacking games against the opposition, but this is the everybody eats offense, more or less. You've got each running back has 7 rushing touchdowns, which is a ton. You've got the wide receivers that are kind of getting theirs. We've had some defensive returns, etc. So it's hard to really pinpoint the production, because they're able to just morph into whatever defenses are giving them. And that makes it really tricky, because you say, oh my God, well, it's going to be, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's like, oh, the guy. Well, he is to a certain extent, but we also need to know that he, has not lit the world on fire this year, because he hasn't had to. Everybody else is scoring. So the key things about him, he's on the field 90% of the time. He has 6 targets or more in all but 2 games. He does have 12 red zone opportunities. So that's a pretty big number. That's helping him out a fair amount here. Jameson Williams coming back helps him out. Now, Williams despite missing 2 games for performance enhancing substances, he is second on the team with 30 targets. Wow, that's not very many. And 20 of his came in the first 2 games. So in his last 4 games, and he's been out for the last 2, but in those 4 games before he went out, he only had 10 total targets. When he was gone, Khalif Raymond, Tim Patrick, they picked up some more snap share, but not really the targets. Allen Robinson, the second, I didn't even look to see if he was inactive. He's an afterthought at this point. Last week, he played 32 snaps. He's played 42 on the season. He's only had offensive plays in 4 games. So I figured he was the odd man out. Isaiah Williams might have been, I can't remember if he was a special teamer or not, but this offense just kind of drops off because then they're throwing it to the running backs and they've got Laporta. Laporta set the world on fire last year. He hasn't done anything this year, right? Because again, it's just everybody's doing a little something and it's adding up to big things. There's no consolidation of this. So it's making it rather interesting to look at all of Detroit. And then now we've got how's Houston going to do it? They love to blitz. How often are they blitzing? Are they going to set up to protect it against the run? Is that going to open up, circling all the way back, Amon-Ra St. Brown, just beyond the line of scrimmage and where the linebackers aren't if they're blitzing or if they're dropping into further coverage and he runs short routes, right? So this is going to be a chess match. But it seems crazy to me. The other last thing before I'll throw it back to you here, we can talk a little bit on the running game. So the lead wide receivers, 8 different wide receivers have gone for 80 or more yards against Houston, despite Houston being 3rd in the league for passing yards allowed. So it's not always the number 1 receiver, but it has been most of the time. But it's kind of interesting to see that, which kind of leads me to say, all right, we've said a bunch of tough things about Amon-Ra. He's still Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he wins out in the end. What do you have? Anything else on the passing game or you want to turn into the running game?
It's actually a smash spot for both number 1s here, Amon-Ra and Tank Dell. I like both of them a lot here. Both these teams have been pretty good against tight ends, okay against running backs, and wide receiver 1s have gotten to them. So I think you could see big games from both Amon-Ra and Tank Dell here. I love Tank Dell in this spot. I love Houston. The world is kind of crowning Detroit as the best team in football right now and poo-pooing Houston because CJ Stroud hasn't looked as good. They lost to the Jets last week. They're still really good, and I think they win this game. So I'm going to be heavier on the Houston side. That said, Amon-Ra might be my favorite piece of the entire game. He's in such a good spot here.
All right, I have maneuvered things around. I'm locking in my cash game lineup here. I switched it to 3 and 3. I had to go away from Tank Dell, but that's okay. That's okay. My consolation prize is Jahmyr Gibbs. So the question, Jahmyr Gibbs or Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs, they essentially are even. Each has led about half the games in snap share. They have very similar rushing workloads. They have very similar 80-plus yard games. Gibbs, who gets credit for being the better pass catcher, has 1 passing touchdown. They both have 7 rushing touchdowns. And this morning, when I was looking at how we had split out the projections here on Stokastic, we had them within 2 carries of each other and like 4 yards. It's that close of a workload because yes, there are certain games where one does have the advantage over the other, but it's not dramatic and it's not consistent. It's not even consistent against type of defense they're going against or outdoor games, indoor games, any of that. There's no real pattern to it. They're both just really good.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
All right, that kind of hits the Detroit side here, the Motor City Kitties, if you will. We're going to try to make sure we have some time to discuss questions and such in the chat here. So I want to make sure that I keep myself moving along because we have 30 minutes here until kickoff. But we do have a pretty impressive offer that I'm going to mention to you. It is the underdog offer. So if you go into the YouTube description and you click on the link in there, I'm sure Jordan will be incredibly helpful and he can drop that into chat here. But you can sign up there and they're doing a 50% match on your first deposit up to $250. So if you put in $500, they're going to give you $250. You put in 100, they're going to give you 50. So it's a really, really good deal. They've got the pick'em contest. If you're in states where they don't have pick'em anymore, like Florida, they've got the champions contest, which is basically they're doing some things behind the scenes to still make it feel as close to the pick'em as they can. They've got their best ball drafts. We, of course, have a playoff best ball coming up here, which is going to be fun for the NFL. So there's all sorts of game formats that you can play there. And then there's the dailies, the daily drafts. Do you want to play, not have to worry about the mass multi-entry people? You want to play head-to-head and do drafts? You can do that every day for basketball. Football, of course, they consolidate around the weekend for Sunday slate, but they have other sub-slates and they have all sorts of different formats that you can do there, from single leagues to giant contests such as their Battle Royale. You can also use our little link join here. This is the cool thing that that Laffy and Jordan Frank kind of put together, but this is a way for everybody to eat. So if you have not signed up for some of the key sites here, and again, you can get this link in the YouTube chat, you'll be able to sign up via any of those sports books below. There are also some pick'em sites on there. Once you make your deposit and make your first wager, now that splash page is going to tell you the different rules for the different sites. Some of them are like make a $5 bet, some are make a $10 bet. Once you do that, send us your welcome email from them. That's to support@stokastic.com via email. Don't do this on Twitter. Just do that via email. We'll get you 1 month of the Sims package, the Sims Max. You can stack these. So if there are several sites that you have not signed up for, you can stack those. Pretty good deal. Pretty good deal. All right. Turning our attention here to the Houston side of the game. Get back to my notes page here. We have Joe Mixon as Mr. Do Everything. So let's kind of start with the running game or the Joe Mixon game. Nobody else is getting anything. He's getting everything. Now, Mixon has 5 games where he's been healthy. He's played in 6. He got a high ankle sprain in week 2 against Chicago, so he missed a few games. But last week he was back and he had 100 yards. Every game he's been healthy. He's had at least 100 rushing yards and a touchdown. In 4 of the 5, he has more than 124 combined yards and a touchdown. He's just been doing everything. This has been a phenomenal season for him. He was good enough to the point that they released Cam Akers, who somehow has passed Ty Chandler with the Vikings, which is not good. Speaking of best ball, no bueno, because I had a lot of Ty Chandler, not Cam Akers. The only backup at this point that's really getting anything is Dare Ogunbowale, because Damian Hyde-Pierce has been injured as well, and he's not playing. But Ogunbowale is not getting touches, because if you look at the games where Mixon was out, Dare was sharing the ball with Akers and JJ Taylor, formerly of the Green Bay Packers. So even though Dare is probably going to be on the field for about 20% of the snaps, he just has not been getting touches. That's a huge workload for Mixon to sustain. It's hard to see that going forward, right? And especially going into the teeth of a defense tonight. But he is one of the 3 best captain or multiplier options tonight, just for the sheer volume that he is getting. So that is Joe Mixon. Hard to say anything bad about him, and hard to say anything good about any of those backups. Thoughts on the Joe Mixon game, not the the Joe Mixon game.
Ogunbowale is in play because he's cheap, and if Houston is trailing, then he'll probably be involved there. But Mixon, man, he's been a top 5 running back in football this year. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying that. He looked dusty as hell for the last 3 years, and now all of a sudden he looks like Oklahoma Joe Mixon. So
it's that Texas barbecue. He gets away from Skyline Chili and he gets Texas barbecue. Of course he's going to get better.
That. Yeah, something like that. So yeah, I mean, Mixon's the guy. I like Houston in this game. I like Tank Dell a lot. I think he's in a better uh matchup. He's in a better scheme matchup than Joe Mixon is. Detroit's been better against running backs, but it doesn't really matter because if they get the lead, they're going to be pounding Mixon. Mixon's not the average running back that they've faced. So I like Mixon a lot here. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. So that kind of tees up for Malcolm Revamp. So he's asking, EMac, who is your captain for cash? So the way I've got my lineup set up right now, I'm still trying to decide between Amon-Ra St. Brown and Joe Mixon. I've got just enough. I'm leaving $700 on the table so I can bounce back and forth between those guys. I'll kind of have to figure out what I'd really like to do. That's going to be the big question, but I want it to be one of those two on DraftKings. Mixon, we just mentioned, he gets the target, the yardage. He's getting action in the passing game, and he's getting into the end zone. Those are all key and important things. Amon-Ra, though, can really rack up those points, and he too could get in the end zone. So, much like I can't take the drink in front of you, I don't know that I want to take the drink in front of me. Never trust a Sicilian when death is on the line, and don't ever try to start a land war in Asia. Those are the important rules we need to think about. But those are my two guys for there. Nathan Perkins says, favorite tournament captains if you are making 5 lineups. So I think it is Amon-Ra. I think it is Mixon in there. Who would you bestow as we get to Tank Dell here? Would Tank Dell make that cutoff for you? Are you circling back to one or both of the Detroit running backs? What are you thinking of this Houston passing game?
Yeah, I love Tank Dell here. I like the Houston passing game all over. I think CJ Stroud has a night tonight. I think he throws like 4 touchdowns. Might be to 4 different guys. I like Houston. I like everything that has to do with Houston. Now, excuse me, the one thing I will say, all their receivers outside of Tank Dell suck. Maybe John Mechie might be something. He was really good in college. He went through that. I think he had, I know it's maybe cancer, leukemia, something.
Leukemia. I think it was
Yeah,
leukemia.
yeah, I think it was. Yeah, okay, good call. Maybe he just hasn't been healthy. Who knows? But outside of Tank Dell, they really don't have much. So it's all about CJ Stroud. That's why I'm kind of liking CJ Stroud at captain, because if he has a real good night tonight, I could see him spreading it out to Hutchinson, Schultz, obviously Tank Dell, Mechie, Steven Sims. So I like CJ Stroud quite a bit tonight, understanding that the talent level isn't great on the outside for him. And in a lot of scenarios this game plays out, Detroit just is too good for them.
There's a lot of information there to unpack because you are correct. These ancillary, these tertiary receivers just have not been putting anything good on the table. They are almost actively taking things off the table. So, Steph, go ahead.
One more thing I just wanted to say, because you talked about the running game. The one guy that kind of looked good when he got limited carries was JJ Taylor. So I'm not saying that he's going to start stealing work, but I was impressed in his limited action last week.
It's one of those where Mixon can't keep up this type of volume. No running back, no human can keep up this type of volume. It's just beyond nuts. So who is going to be the next person, right? Ogunbowale has been there for several years. I mean, it's been almost 4 years that he's been there, 3 years since he left Tampa Bay, I think it was. So he at least knows the system. Obviously, with Dameon Pierce out, that he has
Jacksonville, but yeah,
was it? Yeah, just never get old. Just never get old. Back to the running backs there: Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie III, and Robert Woods. Looking at the last 2 games, one with Diggs and then the last one without. Obviously, Collins has been out for each of these. Hutchinson had 4 total targets. Mechie had 6 targets there, and then Robert Woods had 6 targets across that 2-game span. Woods, I believe it was Woods who played less snaps than the other 2, but that's not a lot of love. So expect 2 or 3 targets for each one of those guys. Maybe someone gets up to 4 or 5, but it's really hard to have a true, I'm going to take this guy as the backup or as the next man up. If we branch out to the tight ends, 2 things. How many starts this year does Dalton Schultz have?
How many starts?
Yeah.
With starting the game?
Yeah.
I don't know why is like Brevin Jordan or something.
It's more or less a
starting.
trick question. He's since he came to Houston, he's only started about half the games. And that's happened this year. And I noticed that because Brevin Jordan.
Yeah, this
and
isn't like the
Teagan-
NBA though. Like,
No. It's weird that those guys have each started like 2 of the last 3 or 3 of the last 4. So that means they've done it a couple of times with 2 tight end sets, but it hadn't been Schultz. Schultz also looking for his first touchdown of the year. Now, who do we want as the better pass catcher amongst all of those? Schultz, for sure, right? He's the veteran. He's done it before. He did it last year. He was pretty solid. He did it for several years in Dallas. He's the guy to look at. But when you start picking at it, you're like, oh, this isn't quite the rosy situation I thought it was. We're in week 10, right? We still have some of these biases from early season drafts in the beginning of the year. Schultz just has not been a gigantic factor. Still better than those other 2, but it was just kind of interesting that he doesn't have like that alpha type role for that. So I found that interesting, especially since all of the receivers have been hurt at some point this year. So you were thinking, okay, well, maybe he's the more stable option. But that's been a pretty unique situation there. So yeah, just odd. Mr. Pie Guy says Schultz may be the slowest tight end in the league.
I would say, in response to your point, it is odd, no doubt. So we agree there. However, I disagree with you when you say that he does not have like the whatever role you said, because he does. Just because Jordan or whatever starts and gets involved sometimes. Like Schultz is the tight end that's catching passes in that offense. Am I wrong there?
I'm going to open up the target summary page here because it's closer than you would have thought, right? So he has 44 targets. Stover has 11, and then Brevin Jordan has 3. Who was the guy? Quentin. I've totally forgotten his name. Teagan Quitoriano. He was a 5th round draft pick last year. No, 2 years ago. This is his 3rd season out of Oregon State. He hasn't done a whole lot. Cade Stover was as rookie this year. He was a 4th round draft pick. But it's sort of been Schultz. Now Schultz has been steady. 3, 3, 5, 5, 6, 8, 2, 6, 6. Those are his targets that get him to 44. So he's getting 5 or 6 a game. That's solid. In the last 2 games, Stover had 3 and 2 catches. Jordan is out. So he only played in the first 2 weeks. So that's why the other guy who I now switched sheets, so I can't see his name, but he doesn't have a target yet. And I think he only has 5 targets, 6 catches in his career. Teagan Quitoriano. So he has played 38 snaps over the last 2 games. Stover's averaging 35 in each of the last 2 games. And then Dalton Schultz, 47 and 56. So that's 66% and 71%. It was just a little more tenuous than I was expecting. But he's still the steady as she goes option. It's a fluke that he hasn't found the end zone. But at some point, it gets a little quirky, right? We see certain players or certain seasons where someone is just jinxed with something, and it just never seems to happen. It's starting to get vibes of that. We've still got 7 regular season games left. He'll get on the board at some point, but found that interesting. Anything else you want to mention for the offenses, or shall we hit upon our special teams here?
I think we can hit upon our special teams here.
All righty. So key things with the Detroit defense. So they, as we mentioned, their line has been really, really good, but they only have 20 sacks. So kind of middle of the road. So Houston has allowed 31 sacks. I believe 30 of them were against CJ Stroud. Last year in 15 games, CJ Stroud had 38 sacks. So he kind of is, taking more than his fair share. When we get to turnovers, Detroit is third in the league with 16 total takeaways, 11 picks, 5 fumble recoveries. Houston's only averaging 1 turnover per game. But again, they're giving up sacks. So it's kind of the defense and offense are sort of mirror images of each other. If we look
and
at
no
Houston,
Zadarius Smith tonight, which helps Houston.
Yes, good point there. So over the last 4 games, the Texas defense has accumulated 14 sacks. Okay, that's pretty good. 5 picks and 5 fumble recoveries. Goff, on the other hand, he's only been sacked 18 times this year. Again, that goes to the great Detroit offensive line and the team tending to run the ball a fair amount. So are the defenses great plays? No. Are they bad plays? No. But it's hard to get excited really about either one because we're looking at some strength on strength matchups there with how that's working out. Finally, the kickers. Fairbairn has just been amazing. Over his last 2 seasons and change, he has hit 21 of 24 from beyond 50 yards. Truly amazing. And he's made 92% of his field goals in that time frame. That's pretty impressive. He's only missed 1 extra point. All right, bonus points for you, Matt. Do you know who the kicker is for Detroit, the Motor City Kitties?
Do I know who the kicker is?
Yeah, he's a rookie.
Yeah, Jake Bates.
Jake Bates. And you know what's fun about him? Never kicked a field goal attempt in college, tried 1 in high school. Oh my God, how is he in the pros? Well, he played 2 years of soccer for Central Arkansas, and then went to Arkansas to he played 2 years of soccer and then went and to Texas State. Sorry, and he was the kicker there, but only for kickoffs. Then he transferred to Arkansas, where he was only the kicker for kickoffs. Great. What is he doing? He went to the UFL, where he actually got to kick field goals, set a record with the 64-yarder, had multiple 60-plus yard conversions. That got him a chance to play for Detroit. In an odd twist, he was an undrafted free agent who spent about 2 weeks in a training camp a few years ago with Houston. Because everything comes.
The kicker carousel in the NFL is pretty wild.
It's nuts. And so many of them are so good right now. It's crazy.
It's so weird. But then half the guys that are really good this year will just suck next year.
Yeah. So in any event, so wrapping it back up to Nathan Perkins. So I think we can vote for Tank Dell as one of your favorite captains, Amon-Ra, the 2 Detroit running backs, and then Mixon. So if you were building 5 lineups, I would probably build one around each of those and sort of see how it goes. Maybe you start to pick some different game scripts for, maybe it's Montgomery. It's like, okay, what does a Detroit win look like in a closer game? All right, maybe that's your Montgomery one. What if Detroit needs to go with the short passing game out of the backfield? Okay, build that one around Jahmyr Gibbs. What if Houston is trailing? All right, there's your Tank Dell lineup. Probably want Stroud in there, maybe one other pass catcher. Oh, we just said they're not that great. But if they're trailing, that probably means Detroit is winning. Do you pair the Detroit running backs together in that one and then donk off another position with someone who's really cheap? Those would be the possibilities you could start to looking at. Tell yourself that little bit of a story. So even though the players aren't necessarily correlated with each other, they are correlated around a specific game script. And then if that game comes to fruition, you've got a little bit of an edge. That's how Matt builds his lineups. And, what does Matt know? Oh, he knows just enough to finish second in the Million Maker last week. I saw your tweet this morning. I was the first person who liked it about 12 seconds after you posted that. I logged in and it popped up on my feed. So
tried to, kind of do the opposite of last week. Unfortunately, none of my lineups even cashed today. And I played a little bit bigger. So nature of DFS sucks, but last week was very good. So we'll take it.
All right. Prater will kick forever. God, it sort of feels like that. Jeffrey Kilmer says Amon-Ra is a fade for me. So if you were building a cash game lineup, On DK, is it Amon-Ra or is it Joe Mixon as your captain?
Um, Probably Amon-Ra.
That's where I landed, even though in my article I anointed it Mixon. So cash game lineups. I still got about 10 team free money. EMac is the username in the DK lobby. Just a buck. I'm going with Amon-Ra, Mixon, Gibbs, Fairbairn, Bates, and Mechie. You can easily start to pivot and maneuver around. You can go away from Gibbs. You could drop down to Montgomery. If you do that, then you can move Mechie up. That's probably a good way to go. You could go with one of the defenses. But ultimately, I decided I wanted to go with both kickers. I do not have a quarterback in that lineup. I felt Gibbs was just a little bit better with potential touchdown upside here. If it's not going to be a Amon-Ra close in, I'm hoping it's Montgomery, but keep in mind, Monty and Gibbs each have 7 touchdowns this year. So it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be Monty who's going to be getting it. So there we go. Let's see. Have you crafted your lineups here as we have 10 minutes left?
I am just completing right now.
Excellent. That means it's time for me to kick off my Sims here. But let's see. Oh, let's talk quickly about the Stokastic Hall of Fame. I will drop that link into chat because that is another way you can get some free Stokastic information. Go to this link here. You see all the rules. You can download the Stokastic avatar, upload that to your DFS side of choice, finish top 3 in any contest with at least 5,000 entries, and you have a chance to get 1 month of Stokastic Premium. All you got to do is do a screenshot of your logo showing that avatar showing the Stokastic logo there. Send that over on Twitter to Stokastic HOF, and then you are eligible for a month of Stokastic DFS. You can win, is it 2 or 3 now, Jordan? You can win 2 times a calendar year. Can you say that out loud for everybody? We weren't gonna get the producer cam. We're gonna get the producer microphone though.
Wait, they can't. Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool.
You're the producer.
Yeah, they can hear me. They can hear me. So you can actually win 4 times. You can win 1 like bronze, 1 silver, 1 gold, and then if you win 20K, then you get a ring. So you can actually win 4 times. Boom.
Okay. This is a sweet deal. Why is there's a lot of Stokastic? Why aren't there way more Stokastic avatars out there? Because you could do this in the quarter arcade, right? You can do this in the mini max. These are winnable contests. Just got to have 5,000 people in there. Check it out. Check it out. All right. Kicking off the old NFL contest generator. Let's see. This is always, it's the witching hour, right? Not the Scott Hansen witching hour, but the DFS witching hour. Those 10 minutes before lock. Am I going to get my lineups in? Am I going to get my CSV file done correctly? There's a lot of uncertainty around here. 7 minutes to go. We got this. We got this. Who are you afraid of not having represented enough in your lineups?
Probably the Detroit running backs. Just I'm over on Houston and I'm less on Detroit, so kind of naturally makes sense.
Did you go with I'm assuming you're hand building most of yours.
I'm hand building my main lineup, and I'm letting the Sims make my others.
Ooh,
so
okay. Did you?
But I changed some stuff in the projections to make the Sims cater towards what I want.
Sure. And I was going to ask, did you do anything to get like situations where you could go 3-3, 4-2, 5-1s, or you just that's what you're just letting the Sims take care of for you?
I'm letting the Sims take care of that part for me. I want some of everything as far as that goes.
All right. It's always hard to know, right? You start to put your hand on your thumb on the scale, then you're like, I should let it go with the Sims. But then other times you're like, well, why is the Sims giving me too much? Especially like in NBA where you get like 90% of somebody. Did you have anybody get way too high for you that you noticed jumping off the page?
Yeah, the guy I'll say there is John Mechie, but that's because I bumped him, so I'm not even worried about it.
All right. So
I feel like this could be the Mechie breakout game. You mentioned he had 6 targets last game. He's explosive. I feel like as soon as him and Stroud get on, I get some chemistry. He's he's more talented than Robert Woods. Xavier Hutchinson was really good in college, but he's not fast. He's just kind of a big body. Mechie's the guy with upside, so I'm totally fine with that.
All right. Do you have designs on getting perhaps a John Mechie jersey after he leads you to glory tonight?
If Mechie scores twice tonight, you will see. I mean, I might just, I don't even know. I don't even know the thing. The things that I'm thinking about doing right now aren't appropriate for air. So we'll just leave it at that. Yes, I'll buy him a jersey. I'll buy a jersey.
All right. All right. You heard it here first, chat. You won't see it here first or second, but you heard it here first. All right. I'm going to do some filtering here because I want to get in some specific stack types. So I want it to get, so you can just do a filter, stack contains, and I'm just saying the number 3 because that will give me stacks that have 3 player, 3-3. I'm going to pick 2 because I want some 4-2s. So now I'm going to favorite 20 like that. And then my last one, I am going to go back into the filter and I'm going to pick 5 because I want a few 5-1s. I'm going to quick favorite that. And then leaves me with 20 that I can choose myself. Let's shake it up here. Let's limit the dupes. And then let's go to cash percentage. I'm going to click on the 5 most highest that I didn't get in that other methodology. Top 10. I'm going to click on a bunch of those to get myself up to 100 lineups. And then let's flip this. Feels like I have an extra filter on there. Let's flip this to the wins, right? Because if you're not first, you're last. And that's what Ricky Bobby says. Those in there, export these 100 lineups. 3.5 minutes to go. Let's do a little randomization here because, you know, that's always good luck. Pick a few of these to stay at the top. Ooh, Dalton Schultz and the captain. That's feeling spicy. It's always funny when you run a batch of these and then you see something up at the top. You're like, really? I'm doing that? Oh, I got a lot of CJ Stroud. Did not leave myself enough time to balance out this portfolio, but that is okay because the Sims. This is the Jesus take the wheel approach. I'm just gonna.
I think this is the Houston this is the game Houston shows that they're still bad. They're still a contender in the AFC.
They're 6-3. They are 6-3.
I know, but
dirt on them yet.
People are. I'm saying they've just lost to the Jets. They didn't look great against Indy. They lost the week before that against Green Bay. I don't know. Again, this is still a team that beat Buffalo, and the Lions are good. Don't get me wrong. So, if this were a playoff game, I think that, and we saw the best of both teams, Detroit wins that game majority of the time, and they probably still do tonight. But Detroit is not in, they lost to Tampa Bay earlier this year. They should have lost to Minnesota. I'm more trying to convince myself why I'm not crazy for loading up on Houston here.
I got 27% Joe Mixon captain. I got 18% Tank Dell, and I have 7% CJ Stroud. In the middle there is 16 to Jahmyr Gibbs and 8 to Amon-Ra. So in chat, the question is Sam Laporta or Jameson Williams. I'm leaning towards Jameson Williams. At this point, the coach said he wanted to get him back and involved. It's the dichotomy. He's second set suspension for something stupid. He has 30 targets, but 20 of them came in the first 2 games, so he has 10 in his last 4. I'm still leaning to him over Laporta. Both teams have been pretty solid against tight ends, but Houston has been especially so, if I remember correctly. I'm sure I put that in my article. Let's see. Laporta has only 26 targets this season. Houston was allowed 3 short receiving touchdowns to tight ends. No tight end has gone for more than 42 yards against them. I think only 3 have gone for more than 25. Laporta has 2 double-digit fantasy games this season. Dalton Schultz does not have any, but Laporta just has 2 after having arguably one of the top 3 all-time rookie tight seasons last year as a tight end. So I'm leaning towards Jamison a little bit there. And we are 40 seconds away from lock. Somebody was asking, how were the nachos last night? They were delicious.
The nachos.
Yeah. So
nachos. I forgot all about the nachos.
Yes. I don't think I'm going to have nachos, but there are still some black beans, some chicken left, and some onions. So I think I will make up a little Mexican chili or something like that. My wife went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game today with some of our friends. So she came back, had half of what we had for the leftovers, and she's already in bed because she's like, this is way too busy of a day for her. So I may stay up. We'll see. I didn't make it till 10 o'clock last night. It was very sad. Matt, it was very, very sad. I tried.
I get it.
All right. With that, we are done. Thank you, everybody, for coming on in and spending a Sunday evening with us. Hit that like button. It does help us out. We just crested over 101,000 subscribers. So that is a nice little milestone. As the last 400 or 500 of you trickle on out, get us up to 200. That would be a fun little milestone to have. With that, you guys can follow Matt on Twitter at FantasyTipsMatt. You can find me at EMac DFS. And of course, it is Stokastic _COM. With that, gamers, good luck.